as an individual who's been in the darkest place, you got to imagine doing 20 years of jail as a bank robber, growing up in Australia's most notorious streets, the amount of, you're just a criminal scum, you're X, Y, and Z, despite it's been 22 years since I've been in trouble.
Yeah.
Spending over the past 2 decades behind bars as a bank robber, Jeff's story is not just about survival, it's about transformation. Today, he's a global mindset, leadership and wellbeing coach, a nutritionist and mental health expert. He's seen the darkest side of life and turned his past into a mission to build better humans, empower communities and inspire millions. Jeff is proof that no matter where you come from, no matter what you've been through, change is possible. Come on this 3-part series as we flip the script in transforming the game.
Jeff, good morning.
Good morning.
Now, lessons are a blessing. I love this saying from you. I am constantly thinking about when things are coming into my life, what have I done to draw it in if it was negative, or what did I do if it was positive, but also what are the lessons learned and what are the silver linings? I think that's really important. So for anyone who is just tuning in today, what would you say to them to why they should just keep listening?
Long story, and during this podcast you're going to learn a lot about life and how you can sort of have strategies in life that allow you to continue to go forward rather than sit there putting out what I call spot fires within your life. And you can imagine, bushfires here in Australia as an example, and how hard they've fought these firefighters at particular times, and some of those times unfortunately they've lost their lives. During this podcast you're going to get strategies that are going to give you the fire exits in these, burn you and sometimes kill you off inside, and literally allow you to obviously deal with that in real time and then continue moving forward in this beautiful thing we call life. Because as you said, lessons become blessings, but for some people those lessons aren't, they can't find that because the ceiling of their knowledge based around their parents or someone of value within their life and what they've taught them hasn't allowed them to deal with that situation. So this podcast, by the end of it, you'll have those tips, tools, strategies to walk away feeling better, more energized, and obviously being able to cope with life a lot better. Or actually live life, I should say.
Live life, right? That's a motto I've been saying. I've actually got picture books I've done 15 years ago, and my little hashtag in it is live life, experience it, right? I'm big. I feel like sometimes people are just in the notion of letting time tick away from them or wishing their hours away. It breaks my heart when I see people going into work, wishing their hours away to just finish the day. And I'm like, that's not living. But you really actually triggered something there where you said you're going to do a fire exit and burn it off. So, and that's an interesting approach, which I actually quite like. Can you expand on that more? Is it about killing off the one side of you that no longer serves you? Or?
It's crazy. You wouldn't go to, as a kid, a nightclub or jump into a car where you don't like, the music as an example. You like a particular music, I like a different type of music. And you keep asking me, hey Jeff, would you like a lift to work? And every time I get in, I'm like, oh, this music kills me. But we do that with work and life. We just accept it, and then we end up existing. Now, fire exits, the more you create, it means the more proactive you've been within your life or business. And when you do that with business or life, it's seamless, stressless. Who would like that? Everyone, right? So as seamless and stressless as it possibly can be. Let's be real. Things are going to happen in life. But the reality is, as long as we keep just accepting life and being reactive to life, we haven't burnt off the side of us that we don't want. So once you walk through that door, you can say, look, I grew up in the area where I grew up in Everleigh Street, Redfern, one of Australia's most notorious streets. But if I go into a business meeting and it's not going right, I say, come outside, do you want to fight me? Like the old school version of myself. I don't think that deal's going to go down too well. And then I go to the next business and they go, look, mate, we know how things went down over at, with Christina, and in the end, we're okay. And I'm like, oh, what, you've got a problem too, do you? That's not who wants to do business with that person? Not one person on this planet, right? How do we burn off the old version of ourselves that we don't like? And we've just got to do that. That means letting go of people that you grew up with. That means letting go of the environment you grew up with. And most people can't do that because why? I'm comfortable. And I know the people here. I can deal with the people here. It's less stress here. And I feel comfortable here. Well, that's great. Comfort's great, but I can guarantee you there is a difference between flying, from here to Germany. I'm pretty sure it's over 14 hours in economy versus going first class or business class. There is a total difference.
Total
People say,
difference.
I'm not too fussed by that. And I'm like, have you ever flown business? And they're like,
Yeah.
no. I said, have you ever flown first class? No. I said, once you do that, you tell me that same conversation. And that means we just end up existing because we just end up accepting. And once you accept, you regret. Design your life. Go out and design it.
Design your life. And once you accept, you regret. That's going to take me to something later I want to talk to you about because I'm big on the rocking chair. I'm big
I
on
love that.
the looking back on things. What I liked there, you've just triggered on a few things on I want to really hone in for people is comfort and energy and where your energy goes. Let's go somewhere different because in a corporate space, so when you're talking about old you, I work with a lot of large companies, a lot of egos, right? And you've got a lot of different people around that you either need to lead, that you need to motivate more so. And
Absolutely.
that's why I'm big on people really enjoying and getting down to the roots of what motivates each person. One might be money, one might be freedom, one might be the community. They just want to feel a part of bigger why. But what about
Absolutely.
when you get those negative Nancy's and just those people who haven't burnt they haven't built their fire exits and they haven't burned it off, and you have to come in and they are zapping you? What would be your advice in that environment where you can't, at that moment, you can't get away from them?
I love that question because a lot of the times that's the reality. We're all built differently and we all see the world differently. And
Yeah.
it's, how you're built from the environments that you've grown up in. And that person, no doubt, had who? They had Tony Robbins around them? I doubt it very much, right? So they've had somebody who's role model into that space. They don't even have belief in pretty much anything that you do. So how do we seek to understand that individual to make sure that we build them to see life through a different lens than they currently see through? And it's having conversations around what's your best solution for the best interest of this environment to make it as seamless and stressless as possible. And then we can ask them and put it back to them. And what will happen within a group setting, they'll say, oh, I think this, and they'll be at this level and we're trying to get to this level. And people have answers beyond that. And that way they don't feel stupid. We say, you're a part of the conversation. What's your solution? And we even go to them first. And they have they might even take up 20 minutes because they can't even come out and tell that conversation the way that they'd like to articulate it. So let them have their voice, and at that point in time say, have you also thought about it like X, Y, Z? And all of a sudden we're starting to broaden their mind, that multi-dimensional thinking, and say, you ever thought about it like that? Oh no, I've never thought about it like that, but my way's the best way. And say, all right, let's incorporate your way and into this spider web where all of us contribute for the best interest of the outcome of the environment. And that way they feel heard, valued, cared for, and mattered. Now, I just watched Robbie Williams. If anyone hasn't watched Better Man, it is an unbelievable movie about how a human can feel inside despite the projection of, the superstar that he is. And I think once we understand that, we can seek to understand the individual. And once I could sit with Robbie Williams and flip him in a heartbeat because I've been there, done that. As an individual who's been in the darkest place, you got to imagine doing 20 years in jail as a bank robber, growing up in Australia's most notorious streets, the amount of, you're just a criminal scum, you're X, Y, and Z, despite it's been 22 years since I've been in trouble.
Yeah.
And for me, working in the corporate world of global leadership, I've just won the Global Leadership Award last year, and the Wellness
Congrats.
Coaches Award as well last year. So to me, and this is for everybody, focus on who you truly are and who you truly want to be. We will never please the world. And I look at Robbie Williams on stage, there's always going to be people in the audience, that was terrible. That was, and I'm like, are you joking?
Yeah.
The person, you go to a concert sometimes and you're dancing like this and the person next to you is like this. So it's how do we get them into the conversation, and even in that spots, how good's this? So I
Yeah.
try and the energy as you spoke about before, let that flow onto them and get the beat going, a bit of head wobbles going, and all of a sudden they're like,
People start to
it's
mimic, right? They match and mirror. If you can
absolutely.
start to get them going.
It might be the shyness that they have, or something. Oh, I want to dance and let go of myself, but I'm going to be embarrassed. But now I'm like, how good is this? Let's go.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
the
yeah.
person's like, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden they come out, you're, whoa, this person can dance. And that's, the dance of life. Don't hold yourself back from just being you, and let yourself be all of you can be. And whether that's the dance of life or the dance of business or the dance of just you being you, go out and dance every single day in the life you want and actually
Oh,
live it like you said in your books. You want to open your books, you've got these books, I'd love to see them, where you open them up at the end. I call it the campfire of life, and you say, hey Jeff, look what I did in my life. And I'm like, oh what, you went to Greece, to Portugal, and we're sitting there talking. Oh what, you climbed that mountain, you seen the pyramids. What a
yeah.
life. Now, I thought about that. Are you going to be the person that thought about it, or are you going to be the person that shows me those books? Or are we going to exchange those books and you're like, oh, wow, Korea, or dove with sharks, or jumped out. I don't know what it is for
The
yourself.
experiences.
Go
See,
out
it's
and
the
live
core
it.
memories.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Is is your core memory going to be, I woke up and went to work every day and paid the
And
bills
and
and
wished it away and wished it away, like wished my 8 hours a day, woke up going like, you got to bounce out of bed. And I'm a morning person, but so not everyone bounces, but um
oh,
oh
even that conversation, I want everybody to, because people say I'm not a morning person, and there is studies now where people are, they've shown that your energy levels will come out at
yeah.
particular times. But even know that, like, so, all right, you might stay up all night. You might be a 4 a.m. person, right? But a 4 a.m. person sitting there watching, info channels about the latest cutter. Oh, look at this cutter. Or you 4 a.m. person looking at stuff that elevates your
Mind
life,
feeding.
lets you live life.
Yes, that you hit that on the head there. So I'm a morning person, always have been, but I was talking recently in an interview, and I was saying uh, too many people go, oh well, I'm not a morning person, so I won't be successful. I'm like, no. There are night owls and there are morning persons, right? But I'm like, the night owls, you can't. If you're going to say I'm a night owl and that's what I do, that's fine. If you do your best work between 9 and 12, congratulations, not me. But you've got to do it. Like you said, you can't be sitting watching Netflix or death scrolling social media for 5 hours. Or you've got to actually, if that's your productive time, that's your productive time. But don't use it as an excuse. Get too tired. The reason you're not a morning person is because you're wasting those hours. But
Love that.
I wanted to go back on when you're talking about those individuals. I just want to touch for a second because actually my family, they own a single men's shared accommodation. So think low
Right.
budget, single rooms, shared accommodation. So
Yep.
that we get the entry level back into those rooms, which a
Absolutely.
lot is people coming out of jail. Now, what I've seen a lot of is two very different sides here. And so, what I'm trying to reach out to here is, do you think maybe what happens is people come in, they'll come because they've got nowhere else to go. Sometimes they're stuck in jail because they can't find accommodation. So, people are just stuck
Literally.
there until we've got rooms that become available because not many people do this. But what happens is we get two very different types of people. We get the gentlemen who want to make a change and want to set their life up, and you can see that they're good guys, right? But then they're getting put in this environment, and you can see they're not getting a leg up. We write references for them to try and get their own like rental. We say
Yeah.
always paying rent, being like diligent, clean, quiet, amazing, and they cannot get a leg up. And then we get the other side that come in, steal our TVs, trash our rooms, don't pay the rent, and then it gets to a stage where we're like, well, we don't really want them to come to us anymore, but they've got nowhere
Yeah.
else to go because we're like, they're trashing the place. But then you've got these few good eggs. But I guess my question is, do you think that there is a disconnect from leaving jail to get back into society for that, or do you just think they're not ready to have left?
I think, like, I've got a lot of property now in our portfolio, and I find that there's residents that, even old ones, that won't get out, and they'll smash the place up, they'll trash it. So I think it's just a human behavioural thing, to be honest with yourself. But when you add the title of criminal coming out of jail, now people will judge it, right? So you're going to get good and bad in your properties, no matter what it is. But the biggest thing out of that is seek to understand those that we can help. There are a lot of men and women that have been in there. They've been victims of abuse from their own parents or their uncles or some, because of the environments they grew up in. They've had no role modelling. So firstly, we can role model those people and say, hey, we really, we really want to see you win. And I've done it many a times where we've put them in the right space, and some of these have become great CEOs, great coaches, great leaders in the community. All they just never had was the right positioning or the role modeling. And once you give that to them, to you and your parents, it's a beautiful thing. Because in Robbie Williams, there's an emotional part where his grandmother says, leans over, puts her arm on him and says, I believe in you. And for us, we just need one person to believe in us. And that's all it is. Like, you got to understand, when we come out with $400 worth of check, and that's it. You don't get any more than that, and you're meant to survive. My last sentence was 7 years. I come out with $400 in today's, and I'm talking still with the current situation of the environment of Australia and the financial situation. They're coming out with $400.
It's almost throwing them back just straight on the streets, and you get so desperate because, as you know, human psychology, like motivators, is that the bare minimum is food and shelter, right? And if you don't have that, you can't motivate anything else to get better, because that's the human instinct. So
let me ask you too. Once you're in this stressful situation, you borrow off your parents or your friends or somebody. Who's our friends? Who's our friends that we're going to borrow off? Drug dealers, people making money illegally, some way, shape or form. You've got to pay that back to them, and there's a different consequence on the end if you don't pay that person back. And a lot of the times they say, just, take this and sell this for me and you'll be even. And then they take it and they sell it and they go, I'm just going to sell some stuff just until I get on my feet. They'll tell you this. And then because they can't borrow off somebody else, they can't get loans from the banks, they can't, it's just a real catch-22. And they end up sort of going down that path, and the money's good and they start doing it a bit more. Now the girls come, or, if it's a guy and they're driving a nice car, and all of a sudden they've just fallen back into that honey trap. And, that's the biggest thing. It's like, how do we get to a position where, it's a very hard position for most people to think, but here's 50 grand to set your business up when you get out. And people would say, I'm not giving them 50 grand for committing crimes. We don't get that. The reality is, if we don't give them the 50 grand, we're going to pay 500,000. Just so you know, it costs 500,000, $500,000, and it might be even more. I think it's, for a kid, it's something ridiculous. It's like 500,000. Let's say it's 500,000. It's definitely that.
It is quite. It's. I know it's very high.
Yeah, that's 450,000 you're going to spend, not once, because I went in and out of custody. So they spent millions to keep me in custody, millions. So, get the person into even build a farm. And when I come home, I go out on the farm, I learn discipline, getting up early, role modelling, not
finance.
Financing, life skills, how to deal with emotional intelligence. When someone gets it and you might say, what, you got a problem? Let's fight then. And rather than fighting, I say, it's not my business. My business is my business. And all right, okay, cool. Sorry, mate, I cut you off and you feel offended. You probably needed the spot more than I did. Have a great day and just keep walking. So I'd rather spend 50 grand there and have someone who contributes to society and maybe doesn't take someone's life later down the track.
Yeah.
In your family or my family, my kids. Wouldn't we want that? So, and we do want a better society, but we don't want a better society. We want a better society, but we don't want a better, which means we role model those kids or human beings, even adults. A lot of them want to change, as you said, but they're just stuck in this grind. It's like business. Someone come in and say, all right, I'm a millionaire. Let's see you be a millionaire next week. You've got all the tools on the internet. Go out and show me that you can do it. And they're like, oh, I don't know how. You're a failure. You'll never succeed in business. And that's pretty much how we treat these people. And they're human beings in the end that just a bit, we're not bad people. I was never a bad person. I just did bad things. And when you understand that conversation, it means that I was built well, but I just didn't know how to do well. And as I said, how do I make money? Can I have a job? No. I went to the Australian Air Force because Top Gun was out at the time, and I said, I want to be in this. And I said, if I get in, I am out of this area and I'm going to the Air Force.
I could see you. I could see you top gunning Maverick. I could.
It was out at the time, and I was like,
Yeah.
that's it.
I
I'm
love
going to
Top
be
Gun.
Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
And
Love it.
sat it and passed the test, and then you got a criminal record, and I lied. I said no because I just didn't want to
Yeah.
be judged, or I would have gave it everything I had. And being a proud Aboriginal man, like, I would have gave everything for my country. And that means all of us in this country, and people, even that conversation, people are like, oh, Aboriginal, and well, why do you feel that unconscious bias? We're all human beings. Love, kindness, empathy and respect towards one another. The greatest race on this planet is the human race. When we all get on with each other, let it be, man. Like, let's just get on. And when I say let it be, also educate yourself around what truly happens, so we can all understand and bring unity to this country. And that unity, that comes in your life, because if it's not there, it won't be there. And that in relationships, in finances, in business, learn to seek to understand the situation, and you understand us as a better nation, and that will help us on a criminal level, dealing with the people that have been there, done that, on a business level, life, relationships. And I can guarantee you that seamless and stressless life I'm talking about, that's what we teach, huge organisation, the Defence Force itself, funnily enough, into NRL, corporate organisations, health services, communities, universities, schools, you name it, we do it. And that's basically seeking to understand we're all built differently. You got to, you like blue, I like red. Someone likes curry, the next person doesn't. How do we get that message for the best interest of the outcome of that environment? If that's the world, then let's make the world a better place. Through a word called Mellorism. Look that up and...
Mellorism. All right. Yeah. Build better humans.
Absolutely. That's the motto of our business.
That's your motto, right? Humans. Build better humans. With your clients, I was looking, and you seem like you just mentioned a whole swag of, from CEOs and NSOs, national sporting organisations, to like the Juvies, to just general people. And I loved, even I was looking through the different testimonials to see what sort of people were attracted and were connecting with you. And I saw this testimonial and it quoted, "I began to love myself again." Did that just like warm your heart? So I guess my question would be, well, you're trying to build better humans. What sort of humans do you find are connecting with you? Because it is such a range you're getting. And are you seeing a common theme in their questions or their approach to you, from the big corporations to this individual who's just learnt to love themselves again? Is there a common theme, or is it very their fitness, their corporate, their leadership, they're very different?
You get it. Human behaviour is human behaviour, right? And in the end, a lot of us are just built from what we know. The program, I call it the program of life. Wake up, go to your 9 to 5, come home, get a house, pay that off, get a car on hire finance, and that's all cool, right? If that's what you want to do and that's your way of life. But if I could make that more seamless and stressless, if I could help you pay your house off and car off within 2 years, would that be of interest to you? And once we ask that question, everyone wants more out of life.
Everyone say that. Yeah, me.
What is that more from life that you'd like? And they'd say, I'd like to travel more. I'd like to spend more time with my kids, my wife, my partner, my husband, my whatever it is, right? And I'm like, so how do you envision that happening? And they're like, what do you mean? I said, so right now, what's your age? And I'll ask the person their age. I'll say, you told me you were 21. And I say, for the last 21 years, it hasn't happened. What will happen for the next 21 years with the same program that you've currently got within the system of who you are? And they're like, probably won't happen. I said, well, I can guarantee it won't happen unless you learn some new stuff. So what would you like to learn that will help you earn more within your life? And I'm not just talking financially, psychologically, spiritually, emotionally, culturally, physically, financially, educationally. And when you do that and put that into your weekly plan, that's a tip. So there's 7 there that I just gave out. Put one of those into each of your days to learn something financially, how to invest, stock markets, economy and how that operates on that day as an example. The next day it might be something spiritually. And when people go, oh, I'm not wishy-washy, and I sit there with the praying to somebody that I don't believe in or something of that, I'm talking about spiritually, how you're inner battery or soul feels around the people you're around, as an
Yes.
example. Do they light your spirit up or do they take it away? And when you understand that, maybe you got a pet that makes you, a pet comes in the room and it just makes you feel a specific way. So that's your spirit, right? For us as Aboriginal people, connection to land. Now people go, bullshit. Well, how do you feel when you walk down the beach and take your shoes off and are about to jump into the ocean? Magical, right? Ions, if you understand ions and how they positive, negative charge and how the ocean works, same principle, right? So when you're doing one of those each day, you build yourself into a powerful human being. And when, like, the problem here, and I know a lot of people, they'll watch this podcast and that's it. I've got the keys to life. Jeff's giving me the cheat codes. What we gave you today in an hour is like 1% of what we could give you. 5 years later, you could still be developing yourself. So don't think you got all the cheat codes to life. But that's what they are. They're the cheat codes to life. And where do you get them from? I'm listening to your podcast, those rocking chair moments, and I'm like, that's a great analogy for me. So everybody can learn from somebody, and what that does, it compresses time. So you used to pay your house off in 70 years. Now you go through an online business around something I'm passionate about, that I can, this mentor guide consultant has compressed time and allowed me to build something. TikTok shop is an example now. You can build that, and you can do it overseas, or you can't do it here currently, but compression of time, build that, put some products into that shop, do enough research with the right tools that I could teach anybody, and you can print money, right? What would that do for you if you printed money? Would you take your kids to Disneyland? Would you still work in the same workplace that you? I doubt it. And you'd do what you'd want to be doing.
You'd be excited to go for work and not wishing your days away.
You could be throwing a fishing line in and, I don't know, fly fishing. I don't know what it is for that person, right? It could be just playing in the backyard with your kids and watching them grow up. Because that's the point of life, isn't it? You're having these families and then you're setting your families up. What about in between, where a lot of people don't realise the disconnect between themselves and kids? Yeah, I'm working hard. I leave at 5 in the morning. I get home at 7 at night. Very noble in between, right? You've got this mindset that it's about being noble for my family. But in between is also disconnect from your family. What if you could reconnect and still make money and be noble for your family? And pay that house off in 2 years, but in that 2 years you're still travelling I travelled for 9.5 weeks the other day, overseas through Europe, and people are like, why would you go to Europe? Because your money's only half. Well, I'm not fussed, because I've made so much and I've got different streams coming in from different things that I can do that. And would you like to know how to do that? That's not possible, mate. And I'm like, all right, cool, because what we get caught up in is the 9 to 5 of life, and my pay packet is, even if it's $3,000 a week, and you're starting to work towards those top percentage makers within Australia. What ends up happening? We still block that out and say, I only make $3,000 a week. By 52 or 150k or whatever it is, right? And once you understand that whole conversation yourself, you can then start to say, is this going to give me the life I want? No, it's not. What do I need to do then to change that? I don't know. Remember that first conversation, the ceiling of your knowledge? Let go, surrender, and say, Christina, can you show me what you do? Because I'd love to earn more money. Jeff, how do you do that so I could earn more money? And you'll do it. The problem with society, we think that we're going to sell you something. Oh, you're going to do my program, or you're going to be my affiliate marketer. And let me tell you this, even if it was affiliate marketing and you were a gun at it and you made millions off it, good luck to you. That's what you were great at. Go out and do that. But people disconnect and say it's a pyramid scheme. It's a Ponzi scheme in Australia. It's illegal. But pyramid scheme, even if they're making millions, people will discount that. And I'd say, if that's what you're great at, go out and do it.
Yep.
If that's what you love, that product, that service, that way of life.
And it's serving, right? I always say, if it's not unkind and it's not malicious, it's okay. It's good. You don't need to worry. Those people that are dissing, those people are negative, are just seeing the gaps in their own life, and they want to bring you back down to make them feel better. So the sooner you can disconnect yourself and go, that's their problem, not mine. I'm not unkind. I'm not malicious. I'm trying to serve people that this will help them. Then go for it, right?
just be ethical too. As I said, don't be
Yes.
the old version of me. And yeah, I'm going to Chris buy this, but wait, there's more, and I don't give you the more, or I don't whatever it is. Don't promise a unicorn and then end up giving them a donkey that kicks them. So make sure that you're ethical in that process, and that's the biggest thing. Find what works for you.
Yeah.
Like, don't get caught up in other people's thought about. That's probably the biggest one I see, the affiliate marketing side of things. And I know some of those people. I've got a great mate who's going through that process. He's an absolute. He's got a part of that 7.5 grand passive he gets paid every single month. His next one is 14 grand a month that he gets paid passive because of the level he's got to around affiliate marketing, right? If you want to call it that. But in the end, the biggest thing with him, and people can't, it's affiliate marketing. I say, do you get paid when you die tomorrow? Does your company pay you 14 grand every single month for the rest of your life? And they're like, no. I said, well, that company pays him for the rest of his life while he's alive, and he passes it on. It's called legacy. They pass it on to their kids.
Wow.
That
That's
kid
amazing.
gets paid 14 grand for the rest of their life when he gets to that next level. And I'm like, that to me is just, I'm like,
Wow.
I had the same, I had to get past, that's not for me, mate. But to me, it's just an easy stream of income that I could pass on to my kids. 7 grand, 7 grand a month, even if they split that, they could, for nothing. They don't have to they could sit on the lounge if they wanted to. But even then I'm thinking, all right, so how do I build my kids so they don't sit on the lounge with that 7 grand and just do nothing? And even with my money, what are they? I'll set up a trust and I'll make sure that when they get that, I'll drip feed it to them, and it's around excellence within their life, not just to go out and blow up partying and on drugs or something of that nature. I don't imagine my kids, because of my money, then end up down a path of drugs and overdoses and dies. I'll make sure I build them well as I can, and that way I feel as best as I can in that situation. That's advice for everybody out there. Build everyone in your environments as best as you can, but it starts with you. And I always say, people say there's no I in team. I say that's rubbish. If I was, let's say we talk about a car, and the car is a team, and we take the tyre off, you tell me the car still runs as efficiently and effectively as it possibly could. There's no way it will. It end up shooting out sparks from its tyre, from its rims. So understand that there is an I in team, and when you build yourself into the strongest version, you bring something that is of value. And think of Michael Jordan or Kobe Bryant or some of these athletes within a team. They build themselves so well. You go and watch that Michael Jordan thing. A lot of them hated him in his team, But he was driving them. I want more. Give me more. And in the end, they end up winning championships.
He demanded excellence, of himself, but then he demanded it of his team as well.